Namaste. Good morning, all of you. We will start with shloka chanting. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmat Acharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Parampara. So welcome all of you to this global festival of oneness, which is broadcasting morning and evening sessions, which are delving deeper into the different aspects of the teaching and legacy of Sri Shankaracharya. And we are very glad to host today our very own Nagaraj Paturi ji, who is going to speak on the impact of Advaita Vedanta on Alankara Shastra with reference to Bhakti and Bhakti Rasa. I'm sure that he definitely needs no introduction because each of you must have seen in various Indica and other platforms because he is very well-known speaker. So Nagaraj ji is trained in Sanskrit and Advaita Vedanta by his polymath and spiritually accomplished father, late Sri Paturi Sitaraman Janeliyu. And he is dedicated to transmitting this Vedic sciences to the present generation. He has designed so many courses on contemporary applications of Vedic sciences and also implemented them to the various universities. Currently, he is the director of Indic Academy and a distinguished professor, curriculum designer, and executive committee member at MIT School of Vedic Sciences, Pune. Then he also serves on the board of studies for Chinmaya Vishwavidyapit, then Kulaguru Kalidasa Sanskrit University, and Veda Vijnana Gurukula. Previously, he had held senior position of cultural studies at Flame University and a visiting professor at the University of Chicago. He earned his PhD in 1998 and MPhil in 1987 from the University of Hyderabad, and where he developed the Indic model of myth criticism and elucidated on Vakyapadiyam as a theoretical foundation for the Ashtadhyayi. So he has over 50 publications and has presented almost 60 conference paper. So we can see that his career has been very illustrious and he has been one of the most sincere and dedicated seeker of Indic knowledge system. And I invite Nagaraj ji to start the session now.
Namaste. Om. विदिताखिल शास्त्र सुधा जलधे महितोपनिषत् कथितार्थ निधे हृदये कलये विमलं चरणं भव शंकर देशिक मे शरणम् गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां भिषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। दक्षिणाचिन्मयी मूर्तिर्यस्य विश्वातिशायिनी दक्षिणामूर्तिरूपो मे हृदि स्यात् चन्द्रशेखरः। As Kanchanji was rightly mentioning, today's talk is an in-house talk. I am part of the team organizing this month-long Shankara Jayanti festival. We gave the name Global Festival of Oneness to this festival. And as part of that, in these morning sessions, Nitin Sridharji, the curator of this festival, has planned it in such a way that we have Shastra related talks, theoretical, doctrinal talks in these morning sessions. As part of that, he has asked me to speak on a topic of my choice, and I chose this topic of impact of Advaita Vedanta on Alankara Shastra, with special reference to Bhakti and Bhakti Rasa. I know that the audience uh, may not always be well versed with all the words that are used in the title. For example, Alankara Shastra, Bhakti Rasa, all these might be new to some of the audience. So I would keep that in mind and I'll keep introducing those words whenever required. But this issue of Advaita Vedanta and its relation with Bhakti itself has been a highly debated, discussed, and a curious topic, intriguing topic. There has been an impression that if you are a Shankara follower, you are not even supposed to go to a temple. You are not even supposed to do Murti Puja. You are supposed to be engaged only in Jnana Sadhana. Relinquish all karmas. Only then you are supposed to be a true follower of Shankara. These kinds of impressions, if they come from non-Shankara followers, non-Advaitins, it is understandable. Sometimes they even have an agenda in doing this. But there are some of the followers of Shankara only, those who claim to be followers of Shankara. And they are scholars. They are known to the world as sound scholars in Sanskrit and Shastras and all that. And then they come up with these kinds of proposals that, all this karma, bhakti, uh, murti puja, temples, all this is not Shankara method. Then that is something which is actually deplorable. And many among the audience also, I know, whenever they encounter such questions, they come up with a huge list of stotras written by Shankara Bhagavadpada. They quote the names of these stotras and the stotras themselves and tell those people who argue that bhakti is not matching with Shankara Sampradaya. They say that Bhagavadpada himself asked us to do Govinda Bhajana. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja. And he is actually using a very harsh word there. He says Mudhamate. Those who don't get involved in bhakti, he is calling them Mudhamatis. And it looks that he is actually targeting scholars only there. That is why I was mentioning scholars. Because in the later part he is saying, Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati do krui karane. This do krui karane is a Vyakarana Shastra statement. Actually, it is not part of Ashtadhyayi Sutras. It is actually talking about a dhatu. It is not part of the main Nishpadaka Sutras. It is talking about dhatu called kri. So, it is actually the very method of using such an expression, which is a Shastric expression, clearly shows that he is targeting a scholar and is saying, hey, scholar, don't keep doing this Shastra, doing the entire Shastric exercise. So, that very one single statement is talking about the entire Shastric exercise, not just uh, writing a particular sutra from Vyakarana or something like that. It is symbolic of the entire Shastric exercise. And it is saying, hey, don't spend your time all the time only in the Shastric pursuits. Do bhakti. Because samprapte sanihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukri karane. All this Shastric exercise, it doesn't help you. So it's quite usual. It's not just me. Most of you, the audience, also quote this and tell people that no, please don't think that Shankara was against bhakti sadhana. He himself was, yes, composed Bhajagovinda Stotra, or actually, people come up with a huge list of stotras also. But those who tend to be historical in their arguments, they might come up and say that, oh, these are not the authored by Shankara, including Bhajagovinda Stotram. They actually argue that they probably were not composed by Shankara, they are attributed to Shankara. So all these stotras, including Saundarya Lahari or Shivananda Lahari, sometimes I was surprised that they go to the extent of saying even Dakshinamurti Stotra is not composed by Shankara. So for them, Prasthanatraya Bhashya, only those primary works of Shankara or Shankara's works. So it is that which is making them think that Shankara is not a bhakti-oriented Vedantin. All these bhakti stotras getting included in the Shankara Sampradaya is a later addition. Among Prakarana Granthas of Shankara Sampradaya, people quote Viveka Chudamani, in which there is a very interesting statement. People from my childhood have been hearing from elders uh, who are into Shankara Sampradaya. They are not scholars. They are elderly women, for example, also. They used to mention to me, see, Shankara has said this, Moksha sadhana samagyam bhakti reva gariyasi, is there in Vivekachudamani. And immediately another scholar would say that, oh, there bhakti doesn't mean namaguna rupa leela sankirtana rupa bhakti. Because in the same Viveka Chudamani, you have a statement, Swasvarupa anusandhanam bhaktiritya vidhiyate. Bhakti here is not the kind of bhakti that you have in mind. Bhakti hi iti kimadhidiyate, kimabhidiyate. It is swaswarupa anusandhanam. So it is an Advaitic swaswarupa understanding, grip on the swaswarupa, atmaswarupa. That is actually being talked about here. That is bhakti here. Yes, it is true. But if one would agree that Viveka Chudamani has a rightful place within Advaita Vedanta Shastra Adhyayana Adhyapana Parampara, and Advaita Vedanta Adhyapana is done through Prakarana Granthas in the beginning, and one of such Prakarana Granthas is Viveka Chudamani. It has a rightful place in that Sampradaya. We have to agree that within Shankara Sampradaya, this Bhakti Reva Gariyasi is there, that approach is there. Though the meaning of bhakti could be different and it could be defined as Saswarupa Anusandhanam only, but the great place to bhakti among Moksha Sadhana Samagri mentioned in such authentic Prakarana Grantha, which is used in the Adhyapana Parampara, has to be accepted and recognized. Let us keep this aside for a small amount of time before we actually get into Bhakti Rasa. Let me just talk about what we mean by Alankara Shastra. The word Alankara, in a very popular parlance, is used in the sense of decoration, ornaments, and all that. But Alankara Shastra is not a Shastra science of such ornaments or decorations. There is an English word used called poetics. In the Western parlance, they use this word, poetics. And the word seems to have its origin from a famous book by Aristotle called Poetics. And from then on, in the Western world of studies, academics, you have this word poetics, in which they deal with the uh, nature of poetry, how to enjoy poetry, how to evaluate poetry, etc., are studied under that field, poetics. And there is another field from the ancient classical Greek world called rhetoric. That was actually the book on rhetoric was written by Cicero. It was actually a book on oratory, speech giving, public speech giving, and all that. It is not a book on poetics proper. But as part of that, it covered many aspects of poetics also, like figures of speech, what we call Alankara. The word Alankara in literature, in Indian Kavya Shastra, Sahitya Shastra, in English can be translated as a figure of speech. Simile, Upamalankara, metaphor, Rupakalankara. And we have a very big list of Alankaras. Figures of speech in English are very small in number. We actually, books like Chandraloka go to the extent of listing 120 and more than that number of Alankaras. And we have many such Alankara Shastra works where a very big list of Alankaras is given. But Alankara Shastra is not just about these Upma Alankara, Utpreksha Alankara, or Atishayukti Alankara, or other Shabda Alankaras like Prutyanuprasa. It is all about many other aspects of literary study also, where there is a huge list of concepts which are actually guna, for example. Guna is here, uh, guna generally means you understand that it's quality. But in Alankara Shastra, guna has a specific a technical sense. Prasada guna, Madhurya guna, Ojo guna are the three main gunas, though other Alankara Shastra scholars, they listed 10 gunas also. And there is a classification, Shabda gunas, Artha gunas also. But it suffices to say that these three gunas are very important, Prasada guna, Ojo guna, and Madhurya guna. This is about the quality of, say, for example, lightness, paleness, etc. is prasada guna. Ojo guna is about heaviness. But this is all about expression, heavy expression, light expression, and all that. So that way, they developed all these concepts, like, for example, Riti. Riti is all about the composition of words, whether they are thickly composed or thinly composed, where the string of words, whether it is very closely knit or very loosely knit. Depending on that, it is Vaidarbhi, Panchali, and Gaudi. Ritis are there. And there is Vritti. The word is used in Natya Shastra, and in Natya Shastra, wonderful examples of Vishnu's fight with Madhu and Kaitaba are given. The stages of the fight of Vishnu with Madhu and Kaitaba are given as examples for these three vrittis, Satvati, Kaishiki, and Arabhati vrittis. And there are pakas, which actually are words about the intelligibility or relishability, the ease of relishability of poetry. If it is juicy but hard to capture, it is called coconut cooking, narikela paka. It is easily palpable and also juicy. It is called draksha paka, grape cooking. And if it is a little effort required, then it is called kadali paka, banana cooking. So all such words, pakas and gunas and ritis and vrittis, and a big list of alankaras, all these are given, and there are many theories of Alankara Shastra where there is an analysis of what is the life of poetry, life of literature. They are called Kavyatma theories, and some call them prasthanas. So we have many prasthanas: Auchitya prasthana, Riti prasthana, Alankara prasthana, Mani prasthana, Vakrokti prasthana, a very interesting one from Kuntaka. All these have been there, and all these Alankara Shastra granthas, right from Bhamaha onwards, we have a very big tradition of these works. But interestingly, all these have their origin in Bharata's Natya Shastra. It is in this Natya Shastra that we get a concept called Rasa. This is our unique and highly distinguished contribution to the entire world poetics. In the Western poetics, they have nothing like Rasa. Though they talk of catharsis of Aristotle as coming close to this, but it is limited. It has limited use. only to the extent of explaining the tragedy and tragic hero and those aspects. Whereas rasa is even those Indologists who try to show Sanskrit and Sanskrit poetics and literature, kavyas in dim light, they agree that this is the unique contribution. Rasa is the unique contribution from our uh, Alankara Shastra. But to Alankara Shastra, it has come from Natya Shastra, from Bharata's Natya Shastra. Bharata's Natya Shastra is the origin of Sangeeta Shastra, Nritya Shastra, Alankara Shastra. All these later developed into separate Shastras, Rupaka Shastra. So, many concepts of Sahitya Shastra, Kavya Shastra also have their origin in Natya Shastra. So, Rasa is one of them. What is this Rasa? Actually, uninitiated people may get a feeling that it is all about emotions and emotional experience. But we have to know that within Bharata's Natya Shastra itself, there is a specific word called bhava, which refers to this emotion thing. So bhava is not rasa. Then what is rasa? When we watch a movie or a theatrical performance or a narrative performance like Harikatha or any of these performances of, say, Puranic narration in a temple, a Pauranika sits on a platform and recites Purana and explains it. All such narrative and theatrical and dance, other performances, when we sit as audience, if we are getting into such an ecstatic and transported state where we get tears, our cheeks get red, lightnings pass through the spine, we get ecstasy and hairs rise, goosebumps occur, then this experience in the audience is given the name juice, rasa. You are getting the juice of that performance, rasa of the performance. Bharata, what a sage, what a person, what a word he has given, rasa. You are getting the juice of the performance. That juice of the performance, that rasa that you are getting, is analyzed in that book, 3rd century BC book itself, to such a meticulous extent that he says that it is coming because of bhava being experienced by the audience to such an extent that there is a tadatmya, tallinata in it, and out of that tadatmya and tallinata, all these goosebumps, ecstatic experience is occurring in the audience. Bharata gives a description of what he calls Sreshtha Prekshaka, the best audience. Yastuштau tushtimapnoti, haye bhiruhu, krodhe kruddhaha. All that he gives and says that if that audience is identifying with the emotions of the character being either narrated or performed as theater or dance, happiness to happiness. Weeping character, audience weeps. Anger, he is also angry along with the character. Then such audience is the best audience, Shrestha Prekshak. In the later Alankara Shastra, the word Sahridaya is used for the as an alternative to Shrestha Prekshak. The word for audience that is used in the Shastra is samajika. The word samaja actually denotes auditorium, where the performance is done. So, an audience member inside the samaja is samajika. In Alankara Shastra, there has been a whole discussion of where is this rasa? Is it in Rama that is being performed or narrated? Or is it in the actor playing the role of Rama? Or is it in the audience? Yannishtam. Where is rasa located? In the whole discussion, they finally concluded, all the scholars agreed with the proposal by certain scholars in 9th, 8th, 9th centuries that it is in Samajika that it is there. That is in the audience. And after all these theories have come into existence, by the time of Bharata itself, there is a list of rasas that is given in Bharata's Natya Shastra. Why should there be a list of these rasas? Bharata says not every emotion can reach that level of giving you this extraordinary, transporting, making you forget yourself type experience. He gives a huge list of emotions as just bhavas, but among them only he lists 8 of them as eligible to become the central emotion that is eligible to become rasa. That central emotion eligible to become rasa is called sthayi bhava. This sthayi bhava, as sthayi bhava, he lists 8, and for each sthayi bhava, he gives you a rasa. For rati, rati is the emotion, sthayi bhava. Shringara is the rasa. Shoka is the sthayi bhava. Karuna is the rasa. Like that, he gives you a list of 8 rasas, and among them, only 5 come as angi rasas, central rasa of a kavya or a work. Because Bharata was dealing with Natya, it was more useful for drishya kavya, that is a theatrical or dance theatrical performance. That is why the whole discussion of rasa at that time was based on theatrical performances. So the language used was also anukarya, anukarta, and samajika type of theatrical language was used. Drishya kavya is the word used for a nataka, a drama. But gradually what happened is, by the time of Anandavardhana, who composed Dhvanyaloka, the method of analysis of how we are getting these experiences or how we are able to take the beauty, experience the beauty, aesthetics of a kavya, Dhvanyaloka brought the whole theory into sound related or speech related, language related analysis, because there are shravya kavyas, kavyas that are recited and heard, and from hearing you are getting the emotional experience out of the kavya, shravya kavyas. So Dhvanyaloka gives you that kind of a change of a method of analysis from Drushya Kavya to Shravya Kavya. So it brings it to language-based analysis. Then while this was happening, at another level, there was a discussion of, is the list of rasas limited to those 8 that are listed by Bharata, or more can be added? So scholar after scholar, people started bringing new ideas. For example, the very word Shanta that was already mentioned by Bharata, it was already there in Natya Shastra, but that was not given significance. It was given significance by other Alankarikas like Udbhata, but later to Udbhata, it was Abhinavagupta who created the whole theory of Shantarasa. And it is from there that we come close to what we are discussing today. Abhinavagupta, while bringing prominence to Shantarasa as the Navama Rasa, that is why actually generally when we talk about rasas, we usually use a formulaic word called Navarasas. Navarasas. This Navarasas, it becomes Nava only after Shanta gets added. Abhinavagupta adds Shanta to the list. He brings prominence to Shanta. And there he, while analyzing Shantarasa, he brings a beautiful Purushartha based analysis of rasas and says that the remaining 8 rasas of Bharata, they belong to the Trivarga, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Purusharthas, and Shantarasa belongs to the Moksha Purushartha. Because Shantarasa is, it's a sthayi bhava, the central emotion of Shantarasa is, some use the word nirveda, some use the word shama. Actually, Abhinav Gupta uses the word shama. And this Shantarasa, which has this nirveda or shama as the central emotion, in a very general language, we can say it's a vairagya. Uh, it is nirveda, detachment as the central emotion. From there, we are landing into spiritual world. All the remaining 8 rasas are identified in works which are general king and queen or prince and princess type of love relationships where Shankara is identified. And Veera Rasa is identified in a very worldly fight of a valorous prince or princess, a king. But for you to have Shantarasa in a kavya, you have to have the hero, Nayaka, in Nirveda, in Shama. Only a Vairagya sadhaka, only a person with Vairagya as the hero of the story can give you Shantarasa. But in fact, actually, it's interesting that in Dhanyaloka that we were talking about, already Anandavardhana is saying that Mahabharata itself is a Shantarasa work. But you might think that how did these people uh, not talk about Bhakti Rasa at all? Because by the time Natya Shastra was composed itself, there was so much Bhakti. Stotras were there, some of the Veda mantras themselves are Bhakti, and Bhakti was all there as examples. In Shastra, we use the word Lakshya and Lakshana. Examples are called Lakshya. Lakshana is the generalization that is done on these examples from the instances, instant cases. From instant cases to generalized theory, Lakshya to Lakshana. So Lakshyas of Bhakti were already there. Why in Lakshana, in the theory, in the doctrine, in the generalization, people did not come up with a theory of Bhakti Rasa? It's a very good question. It's a very interesting question. Intriguing also, because yes, Bhakti Rasa examples are there. Bhakta as a Nayaka of the story is possible. Bhakta as a Nayika of the story is also possible. And the entire story being a Bhakti story is also possible. And there is a possibility of looking at the Itihasa like Mahabharata itself from a Bhakti point of view, Ramayana from a Bhakti point of view. And there was this Purana, Bhagavata Purana, that is full of bhakti only. It is actually a bhakti rasa kavya, though we call it Mahapurana. In the very beginning of Bhagavata Purana, it is mentioned that it is Veda Kalpa Vruksha Vigalitam. And it is a phalam, and it is also asking you to Rasika Bhava Vidaha. Those who are Rasikas, it is asking you take the juice of these muhur muhuhu. Again and again, you take the juice of this Bhagavata. But it was interesting that within Alankara Shastra, though Abhinav Gupta brought the discussion up to Shantarasa, Bhakti Rasa was not there. Whenever some Alankarika brings the examples of Bhakti, the Shastra scholars, the Shastriya discussions used to say, oh, this is very similar to Preyo Bhava. There was a mention of a rasa called Preyo Rasa also. Narada Bhakti Sutras also use the word Preeti for Bhakti. So it is all Preeti only. So there is no need. And some people had argued that all the Bhakti Rasa cases have to be put under Shanta Rasa only. This is Shanta. So what you are watching there is Shama, just Nirveda only. So they brushed it aside as just Shanta Rasa. It was in 17th century that Bhakti was given a position of Rasa. So though Lakshyas existed for centuries, if not millennia, Lakshana of Bhakti Rasa came into existence only in the 17th century. Whenever students of Alankara Shastra talk about the recognition of Bhakti as Bhakti Rasa in the history of Alankara Shastra, when they come to 17th century, they mention the Goswamis, Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami, as the main proponents of Bhakti Rasa, but also they immediately mention Madhusudana Saraswati also as the proponent of Bhakti Rasa. These two, Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami, are from Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. They are direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So their entire discussion of Bhakti Rasa is around the Gaudiya Vaishnava Achintya Bheda Vedavada Vedanta. But it is Madhusudana Saraswati's book, which is called Bhagavadpati Rasayana, that brings an Advaitic interpretation of Bhakti Rasa. I should also mention that when Abhinavagupta brought prominence to Shantarasa and created an entire theory of around Shantarasa, it was also Advaita only. Because Abhinavagupta comes from Kashmira Shaiva, Ishvara Pratyabhijna Siddhanta. It is also a kind of Advaita Vedanta only. So Shantarasa theory was, we can say that it is influence of Advaita Vedanta on Alankara Shastra, specifically to the Rasa side. So Shantarasa theory itself is an Advaita influence. But that is Advaita, but not Shankara Advaita. Shankara Advaita, its influence on Alankara Shastra came from Madhusudana Saraswati, his work on Rasa called Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana. He is among Advaita Vedanta Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Jagadgurus, Madhusudana Saraswati is a polymath, a colossal scholar, author of a very big number of books. He is mainly known for his book Advaita Siddhi, which is a counter argument to the Madhva Vedantin Vyasaraya Tirthas Nyayamrita. And from there, you have a huge list of Madhusudana Saraswati's works on Advaita Vedanta. Another very important work of Advaita Vedanta that is written by Madhusudana Saraswati Swami is Gudhartha Deepika Vyakhyana of Bhagavad Gita. When people talk about his contribution to Bhakti Rasa, his establishment of Bhakti Rasa as a rasa within Advaita Vedanta tradition, and it is a contribution to both to Advaita Vedanta and Alankara Shastra, then they usually refer to Gudhartha Deepika also, because logically you may expect that, oh, he is dealing with the Bhakti Yoga there. So he might have talked something about Bhakti there also in Gudhartha Deepika also. So in what way it is connected? The Gudhartha Deepika's dealing with Bhakti, if Madhusudana Saraswati in Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana is giving such a great prominence to Bhakti, then he must have given a great prominence to Bhakti in Gudhartha Deepika also. Yes, that is true. Actually, in his Gudhartha Deepika Vyakhyana of Bhagavad Gita, which is actually an elaboration of Gita Bhashya of Shankara Bhagavadpada only, there he comes up with ideas like Bhakti being the avadhi of jnana sadhana. And he also adds Ashtanga Yoga. He says Shankara Bhagavadpada also is indirectly indicating that it is Krishna Bhagavan's idea that Ashtanga sadhana is also a very important path as Jnana Yoga, Jnana sadhana. And even for that, Bhakti is the avadhi. It is the ultimate state. Bhakti is the ultimate state that comes. So from Gudhartha Deepika time itself, Madhusudana Saraswati Swami is actually coming up with this proposal that Shankara Bhagavadpada's idea itself is that Bhakti is the best form of Jnana Sadhana. Only after you complete your Jnana Sadhana, you can reach Bhakti. So it is in consonance with Bhakti Reva Gariyasi of Viveka Chudamani also. Though Madhusudana Saraswati Swami does not mention such statements there, he is in agreement. His argument is in agreement with that kind of proposal. And the book itself, Madhusudana Saraswati's book, Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana itself, is not a very big book. It's a very small book in 3 ullasas. The divisions of the book, chapters, we can say, of the book are called ullasas. The Radhamollasa is in the colophon here at the end of the chapter. It is described as Bhakti Samanya Ullasa. And the second one is called Dvitiya Ullasa, is called Bhakti Vishesha Ullasa. And the Tritiya Ullasa, the third chapter, third division, is called Bhakti Rasa Ullasa, Bhakti Rasa chapter. Among them, the first one is very small, 37 verses, 37 karikas, we call them shlokas. 37 karikas are there in the Prathamollasa. Second one is very big, it has got 86 verses. The third one is again very small. It has got only 30 karikas, 30 shlokas. But people see that the small chapter, the first chapter, Pradhamollasa, has the own commentary of Madhusudana Saraswati. Our Karikakaras, some of them have this Swopagna commentaries, their own commentary to their own work. But Madhusudan Saraswati Swami composed only commentary for the first chapter, only to the Prathamollasa. It's very big. It's a very elaborate commentary, Vyakhyana, that he has written. And in that commentary, most of the ideas, arguments about Bhakti Rasa are already established in the Bhakti Samanya Ullasa, the Prathama Ullasa, in the commentary portion. Actually, there is a PhD dissertation from one of the Western universities on Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana. It actually mentions this PhD dissertation actually mentions only the first chapter. It deals only with the first chapter. It translates actually the first chapter only. It was submitted by Lance Edward Nelson, and it was submitted to a university, not so a prominent university. It is McMaster University. He submitted this dissertation. It includes an English translation of the first chapter and the commentary also. He does not translate or include into discussion the remaining chapters, second and third ullasas in that. But there are a very good number of works by P.R. Modi, Mishra, and other scholars on Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana from India. And there are commentaries on Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana in Hindi and in Sanskrit, also written by modern scholars, and those are all published. From all these, what we can see is that people see this as a necessity of the modern times, of the times of Madhusudana Saraswati. Because there was a historical need, he has created a book called Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana. They also argue that because yoga was getting prominence, Hatha Yoga was getting prominence, Hatha Yoga and Advaita were running together at that period of time in history. He merged all those streams into his arguments of Gudhartha Deepika and Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana. That is why he is coming up with this model of Bhakti Rasa. Probably true. Those who are always into what is the background, what are the times, from where it is coming, they might look at those things from that point of view. But for us, in the Advaita Sadhana Parampara, we feel excited, we feel grateful to Madhusudana Saraswati Swami for having given us a theory for what we have always been experiencing. We have been experiencing ecstasy, rasa from bhakti in Bhagavata Purana from an Advaitic perspective. Sridhara Vyakhyana of Bhagavata is also an Advaitic Vyakhyana of Bhagavata. And we have been experiencing bhakti rasa in many, many Advaita Bhakti narratives, theatrical works, dance works, and all these. And we did not have a theory for it. Now, this book, Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana, is giving us that theory. In the first chapter, Bhakti Samanya Ullasa, he comes up with all the arguments about why bhakti has to be given significance in sadhana. He is not already going into Alankara Shastra there. Though he is repeatedly bringing examples from Bhagavata Purana and Shankara Bhashya statements and all that, he is not already going into Alankara Shastra. Into Alankara Shastra, he comes only in the third Ullasa called Bhakti Rasa Ullasa. The middle Ullasa, the second one, which is called Bhakti Vishesha Ullasa, has a meticulous analysis of the intricacies of Bhakti, the detailed varieties of Bhakti, detailed varieties of Bhakti related sadhana, and the combinations of Jnana and Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga innate, and all such meticulous details are covered, which in the long chapter, the second chapter, Dvitiya Ullasa. The third Ullasa, where he comes up with the actual theory of Bhakti Rasa, it's interesting that he is focusing, like Anandavardhana in his Dvanyaloka, on the Shravya Kavya aspect. He is focusing on Shabda. And there he talks about, actually, in Dvanyaloka, the whole Dhvani, establishing Dhvani, has a wonderful Shastric arguments in the early portions about whether the Shabda Vrittis, called the Abhidha Vritti, Lakshana Vritti, and Vyanjana Vritti, among them, how Vyanjana Vritti is required and the Lakshana Vritti is not sufficient. And he establishes Vyanjana Vritti, and it is that Vyanjana Vritti that is given the name Dhvani. When we read this chapter, Bhakti Rasa Ullasa by Bhagavad Bhakti Rasa, our Madhusudan Saraswati Swami, in Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana, we see that he is expecting the audience to know all this already. He repeats, he just keeps on saying, you know, that Lakshana is anyway is not useful, and Vyanjana is already established, and within Vyanjana, he goes into the details of Samlakshakrama Vyanjana, Asamlakshakrama Vyanjana. These are all Dhvanyaloka vocabulary. Analyzable Dhvani and Asamlakshakrama is that Dhvani that happens in you. Dhvani is a subtle communication of meaning. So that subtle communication of meaning that happens in you in poetry, that subtle communication, if it is analyzable in you, it is Samlakshakrama. Rasa is classified under Asamlakshakrama. He comes up with that, he mentions that, and gradually he goes on building arguments about the other Alankarika concepts like Guna, Riti, Vritti, Paka, and he analyzes how the central argument of this Bhakti Rasa Ullasa is that works can be classified into Laukika and Alaukika, and all the 8 rasas that are discussed there, his argument is that they can have an Alaukika version also. In Bhakti Rasa chapter, Bhakti Rasa Ullasa, he says that there is no need of separately discussing all other aspects like Sthai Bhava, Vibhava, Anubhava, Sanchari Bhava, all those technical details separately here. They all apply the way they apply to the Laukika Granthas and to Laukika Rasas. But there is an Alaukika Shringara, Alaukika Karuna, Alaukika Veera, Alaukika forms of all the 8 rasas also. And along with that, you have Bhakti Rasa, he argues. And towards the end, towards the conclusion of the work, he mentions how Bhatta Mata in Mimamsa and Prabhakara Mata in Mimamsa also do not contradict this. And he also mentions towards the end of the book that Shankaracharya's Sutra Bhashya itself has already done the Khandana of how Shabda is not Karya. So with that, Shankara also is dealing with this, and the Bhatta's Arthavada argument also supports that all the poetic descriptions also are actually ultimately intended for another communication, which is a subtle communication. So using all the Purvottara Mimamsa Vadas and Sutra Bhashya and every thing that is at his disposal, he comes up with the conclusion that Taittiriya Upanishad's Raso Vaisaha is actually, that is the rasa we are talking about, bhakti rasa that we are talking about. It is atma that is rasa, and that atma as rasa, whereas the other laukika rasas are brahmananda sahodaras, bhakti rasa is brahmananda itself. It is Brahman itself. It is Atman itself. So he comes up with that final beautiful argument and concludes the small 30 verses, 30 karika chapter called Bhakti Rasa Ullasa. Kanchan ji has come to tell me.
Very good, I mean, enlightening session. And it was very good that you brought out the harmony between the different scriptures. So jnana doesn't become just a dry sadhana, but bhakti, I mean, it can be equally emotive, and it was wonderful. And we have received comments where people have said that they have liked this elucidation a lot. Yeah.
Is epiphany different from rasa? Are Saint Tyagaraja's compositions an epitome in the backdrop of Bhagavad Bhakti, Bhakti Rasa, Advaita, Alankara Shastra, and an excellent mix of general ideas and theoretical concepts? Is Lalita? This lecture has kindled curiosity in Alankara Shastra per se.
So we will go for the announcement of the next session now. In the evening at 7 o'clock, we have a session on Shankara's Vedanta, Elixir for Today's Problems by Bhuvaneshwari Lakshmi Narayanan. So stay tuned with Indica, and let us conclude the session here.
Thank you, Nagaraj, for a very, very wonderful session. It was a really very eye-opener and very interesting session on Alankara and Rasa, a topic which is of personal interest to me. Thank you for doing this session.
It was really very superb, no doubt about it. The Samanvaya and Samuchaya, though Samuchaya is not possible, Samanvaya is possible, and how Samanvaya is possible in terms of Advaita Siddhi writer himself, Madhusudan Saraswati. That book is really fantastic. Bhakti Rasa is phenomenal book. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And what really Acharya says in Vivek Chudamani as Bhakti Ritev Gariyasi. Gariyasi is the word which is used, and then he goes on to define what is meant by it. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very illuminating and very, very good. I enjoyed it.